Alright, so welcome to my 80-year-old house. It has 80-year-old bones that are actually still good, but like an 80-year-old, the skin or the surface is starting to suffer. So, what we've got here, if you look above this door, you're going to see some nice big cracks. I'm trying to get this light right because we don't have any light in here. Anyway, you can see how this wall is all cracked up. This is plaster. And it is cracked there. Let's see if I can get this to focus right. There we go. You can see that big old crack right down there next to the door. And then over here, it's actually all bubbled out. And it's just starting to fall. You can see over here, we've got some more cracks, even a little piece that's been poked out. Over here, this is obviously in the stairwell going down, but anyway, just all kinds of cracks that are leading up to the upstairs. As well, this wall here, if I can get it to focus right, you just see where it's all bumped out and bowing out. So this little piece of wood right here is where we used to have an ice chest, and back 80 years ago, they would walk in this basement door. They would open a little trap hatch right there, and there was a, with their old original refrigerator was there. They would toss a block of ice in, and then they would walk back out the basement door, and off they would go to the next house. We converted this to a half bath on the other side a while back, and so anyway, I just put some plywood over that. But the goal is right now to pull all of these cracked plaster walls down and control the demolition instead of coming home one day and having all that stuff down in my basement. So what I'm going to do is build a false floor right here down these steps that I can walk out on that's got plywood. I'm going to drop some plastic from the bottoms of these walls into that false floor, and then I'm going to smack the junk out of this wall and pull the plaster down, shovel it into some buckets, and right outside is my trailer with a dumpster bag. So we're going to get rolling with that. I've got to pull this door out and reseat the door because that's part of the issue why these walls are cracking. But anyway, yeah, let's get the party started. Alright, so here's the frame. We've got just a basic kind of 24-inch on center that I can put some plywood on. I've got a cross bracing down here onto these legs, and then another cross bracing at the bottom just to keep it sturdy. And then I've got some 2x4s here that I'm going to put some plywood up against for this wall, and then also a couple pieces tagged in here so that I can put some plywood here. I'm going to drape plastic from the bottom. There's actually a wooden rim down here to catch any of the plaster when they were making the walls. And I'm just going to staple in there, drape it around. So plywood, 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 and off we go. Alright, so I got my walls up, my floor up. I'm feeling kind of cheap today because this was all done with one sheet of plywood. So I've got a little gap right here, and I think I'm just going to try and do a good job on the plastic. Obviously you can see I've got a tarp behind it covering up some of our stuff back there, but I think once I plastic around, just kind of be controlled when I'm taking this plaster down as much as possible. Alright guys, we got some plastic up. Obviously I've got to keep the floor open so I can shovel once all this stuff falls, but next step to do is pull out this trim on this door and unseat the door from the hinges. And then I need to slice a line around the roof. My goal is to keep the ceiling intact, so I'm going to slice a line where the roof and the wall meet, if it's not already sliced by itself. And then I'm going to start just pulling stuff down. So let's get to it. So what you can see here, I'm really proud of this actually. So I scribed a line with the razor blade first, then you saw me go back with the with my little flat bar and hammer it just in a straight line all the way down, and that is a pretty clean cut. For being plaster, I'm super happy with that. That's going to be easy to butt up some drywall. I can get the beveled edge over here so that we can just skim it over, which would be really nice. But you can see here, this is where the ice chest was. Obviously I just built a little wooden frame. I put some particle board in, and then I trimmed out using this existing framing. I just trimmed it out with some 1x all the way around. So you can see the drywall on the other side where we've already redone the bathroom that's on the other side. And then this here obviously is just kind of falling apart. So here's my whole big issue, if I can get it to focus up here. Maybe if I turn on some light. There we go. So you can see the gap between the top of the door and the header. The old doors were about 2 inches taller than current standard stock. And so when I replaced it with this off-the-shelf door, the header was no longer in the right spot. So I need to remedy that so that I can screw the door up into the header, because it's just been dragging the whole wall down. But anyway, yeah, I'm just going to keep on running. The other thing I'm trying to think of is on this exterior wall, if I need to pull the lathe board off. We've already got insulation back there, but if I need to pull the lathe board off to make it easier, I will. Obviously on this wall over here, I'm going to leave it because it's going to make it much easier to butt up to the existing plaster. But one part of a wall down. Let's keep rolling. Got to be gentle on the roof line. Alright guys, pretty filthy right now, but it's the end of the day. Got this, all the drywall is tacked in, it's spaced pretty well. This gap worked out super nice all the way down, so I've got just enough to fill in and smooth it across. This side here, I'm just leaving some space where I'm gonna mud this in. This has the bevel on it, and so I can really smooth it out. But everything is coming in nice. We got it all the way around. So, alright, so that's where we're at right now. It was a great day yesterday, and I'm hoping really to get a first coat of mud on everything today, and get that false floor pulled out, because then it's just going to be one layer of sanding and then maybe another skim coat. I'm not going to make this thing look pristine because it looked horrible before, so this is so much better now. Anyway, that's it. Stick around and I'll show you where we're at as we go. Alright guys, the sun's up. I've been working all morning. It's midday, and give you a quick snapshot. Got all the mudding and taping, kind of the first round done. As you know, some of these spots where we go from plaster to drywall was not the smoothest transition, but I feel confident with where I'm at right now. So let me show you. So this wall here, we've got the plaster corner and then the drywall, and there's a pretty big gap in there. So I put some tape in, kind of hyper mudded it. I know the mud's going to shrink up when it dries, so I'm going to let that dry for a couple days before I do anything else with it. But spots like down here at the bottom, it's actually not too bad of a transition. It'll even up once I get a second coat on there. But all of my joints up here at the ceiling line, All turned out really well. Down in here. So I used this was like the tape without metal in it, and it's giving me some bubbles here and there, so obviously I have to come back and fix that. Everything else I did the bubble tape. I mean it's got the metal like sure corner is what they call it. So even up above here, I had a pretty big gap there, but I was able to put some stuff behind it, put some mud behind it, and then get my corners good. And this thing here, this was obviously the transition from plaster into here. I'm going to have to work this way far over, probably to about here, to get it to be smooth. Because I don't know if the camera's going to catch the distinction between some of these spots, but it gets pretty big in certain areas. This spot in here was actually the best area for doing it. You can see even very minimal mud right in here, so that's good. But anyway, not bad for a first shot. Alright guys, we're back. We're in the basement and I am marking this job done. We're moving on to primer and paint, so I'll just see if I can get some shots on this. We've done a couple coats. It's been like 2 weeks, but I need to let things dry, and I had a bunch of projects going on, as you saw in the last video. So anyway, let's see if I can show you what I've got here. So this wall was where we've got plaster, we've got drywall, we had a really good etched line all the way down. What I found though, the plaster was thicker in spots, and so although the drywall was really even, the plaster was not. So I had to build up sections and kind of round them over. See if I can show you some of that. So it's going to be kind of hard to see with this light, but anyway, right in here we've got a little bit of a bump. Down here it's actually nice and smooth all the way around, and then down here at the bottom I really took a lot of time to build this out to try and get it more bubble shaped, if you will, but it worked out. Outside of that, all the ceiling seams have worked out fine. So if I can turn this light. This seam obviously pretty standard drywall to drywall, so that one worked out great. Up in here in my corners, these are all smoothed out and look well. And the only last thing that was really kind of a pain was, if you remember here, we kept a section of about 1 inch of plaster, and then the drywall came and dove over here, and I really had to build this out a bunch. And even at the bottom, the plaster really broke apart, leaving me a really big gap. So this actually ended up being pretty smooth all along the way, and it is ready for primer. So we're going to go ahead and, so we got our primer. We're going to go ahead and actually prime this whole downstairs hallway just so it's one color, and then my wife will pick whatever she wants and paint it whatever she wants. When that's done, I'll come back and tack my trim work back in, but this one for right now is done. I did get a bunch, I've noticed a huge difference, did a lot of spray-in foam over the header and in some little cracks and crevices at where the wood meets the brick foundation. Super tight now, because it's been like, I don't know, down in the 20s over the past week and the nights, and this has actually stayed nice and controlled temperature-wise. So winning on that front. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching this quick little, I say quick project, but 2.5 weeks for me. But it was a quick project. Thanks for watching. We'll check you guys in the next one. Peace.